People ask me all the time, well, what's involved in building positive labor relations? What are the fundamentals? And there are four fundamentals and four pillars, if you will, of positive labor relations. The first pillar is how to build a positive culture. What's culture made up of? How do you build it? The second pillar is, what are the roles within that culture of the various players? What's the role of the employer? What's the role of the union? What's the role for the employees? The third is, well, tell me a little bit about the rules. How do we engage each other, and what rules do we set and what boundaries do we set to help build better labor relations? And finally, when things don't go well, be it that there is an employee does something wrong or that we agree to disagree, how do we handle ourselves when disputes arise to bring out the notion of fairness? Good labor relations is all about fostering a common understanding and a common vision of problem solving. And what ends up happening is that doesn't happen overnight. That happens through training, that happens through discussion, that happens through mutual understanding of the law, and that happens typically when you share a willingness to want to resolve the dispute collectively. How does one engage in a good relationship? Well, let's talk about that for a while. Let's talk about what it looks like in terms of a poor relationship. Typically, when you have poor relationships, it's very obvious. You have infighting, you have quarreling, you have people engaging in screaming matches, you have people engaging in lots of grievances, you have the employer saying no before you've even explained the issue to the employer. So what does positive labor relations look like, or what types of things go into engaging in a positive labor environment? Well, you got to understand a little bit of what is a relationship and what are the various levels of relationship. The most junior level of relationship is called power. If you were to think about you exercising power over your child when they were 3 years old, you would say yes, you would say no, you don't even need to give an explanation. There typically are some employers that engage in a power-based relationship with their employees. And if you think about non-unionized employers, not all of them engage in a power relationship, but some do, and it sounds like this. They will tell you when the salary will increase. They will tell you when you get promoted, when you get demoted, when scheduling changes and so on, but you have no say as an employee. And there's lots of unions that dominate employers, and that the employer can't do anything because there's a belief that the union won't agree with it. That too is a poor relationship. The second type of relationship is called a rights-based relationship. When a union comes in, it provides rights to employees, and it provides that level of equity. And the rights-based relationship is not without its problems either, because if you decide that you've been harmed, we tend to go now to a third party in a rights-based relationship to resolve the issues. In a labor environment, that's called an arbitrator, and we tend to go to an arbitrator to resolve our disputes. The only problem with that is to say, well, that's a great mechanism to be able to get at what our rights are. The problem is it destroys our relationship over time. Why? Because we end up going essentially to a judge every time there's a dispute. Well, how many times can we go to a judge and have a relationship actually be sustainable over time? And that's where most shop stewards and that's where most representatives are in terms of a traditional model. It's the saying, look, we have to exercise our rights, and therefore at every juncture where there's a problem, at every juncture where we disagree, file a grievance and let's go to arbitration. So what is the third type of relationship? Well, obviously the third type of relationship, which is the most mature type of relationship, is called interest. Now, an interest-based relationship is critical for a positive labor relations.